The Apple Watch notification glowed at 2:47 a.m., and that's when I knew my marriage was over. I'm James Bennett, 34 years old, and I built my tech startup from nothing into a 7-figure company. I'm good at reading data, patterns, anomalies. What I apparently sucked at was reading my wife. Claire had stumbled in 20 minutes earlier, claiming another late night at the law firm. Her hair was mussed, lipstick gone, and she reeked of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. She'd mumbled something about depositions and brief reviews before disappearing into our marble bathroom. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Now she was snoring softly beside me in our king-sized bed, completely unaware that her forgotten Apple Watch was lighting up like a Christmas tree on the nightstand. Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow night. The Ritz, room 412. T. My stomach dropped. Then another message appeared. Tonight was incredible. You're amazing when you let go like that. T. I stared at the messages, my tech entrepreneur brain already calculating probabilities. T could be Tom Reynolds, her law firm partner. The same Tom who'd been at our barbecue last month, shaking my hand while apparently planning to sleep with my wife. Claire stirred, reaching unconsciously for her watch. I gently moved it back to the nightstand, my mind racing. We'd signed a prenup 5 years ago when we married. Claire had insisted on it, claiming it was just business sense for two professionals. Now I understood why. She'd been planning this for a while. I slipped out of bed and padded to my home office. My fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing accounts, checking patterns. Claire's credit card showed charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotels during business trips that lasted only a few hours, lingerie purchases from stores she claimed to hate. The data painted a clear picture. My brilliant attorney wife had been methodically betraying me while I worked 16-hour days building our future. My phone buzzed. A text from Allison, my assistant and the only person who worked as late as I did. Boss, saw the light on. Everything okay? A. I typed back, working on a new project, something that's going to change everything. And I meant it. Claire wanted to play games with a tech entrepreneur. She was about to learn that I didn't just build software, I built traps. The next morning, Claire acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making her protein smoothie, kissed my cheek with those lying lips, and grabbed her designer briefcase. Late night again tonight, she said casually. The Morrison case is heating up. I'm sure it is, I replied, not looking up from my laptop. Give my regards to Tom. She paused at the door. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, just being friendly to your colleagues. After she left, I got to work. My company specialized in data recovery and digital forensics for corporate clients. Ironic, considering I was about to use those same skills on my own life. I cloned Claire's Apple Watch data to my secure server. 5 years of messages, location data, heart rate spikes at suspicious times. It was like reading a novel about my own betrayal, written in metadata and GPS coordinates. Allison arrived at 9, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing her usual concerned expression. She was 29, brilliant with code, and had been with the company since the beginning. More loyal than my own wife, apparently. You look terrible, she said, setting down my coffee. What's going on? I showed her the watch messages. Allison's face went through several emotions, surprise, anger, and something else I couldn't quite identify. James, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I'm going to give Claire exactly what she deserves. But first, I need more data. We spent the morning building what I privately called Project Settlement. Using publicly available information and some creative digital detective work, we mapped Claire's affair in excruciating detail. Hotel visits, restaurant reservations, even Tom's calendar from his law firm's client portal that he'd foolishly left unsecured. The affair had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of lies, fake smiles, and working late, while I busted my ass to provide for our future. My phone rang. Claire. Hi, honey. I left my watch at home. Could you bring it to the office? Of course, darling. Anything for you. The sweetness in my voice must have surprised her. Oh, okay. Thanks, James. After hanging up, Allison raised an eyebrow. You're planning something diabolical, aren't you? I prefer to think of it as strategic data deployment. I spent an hour preparing Claire's watch, installing some custom software that would give me real-time access to her messages and location. When I arrived at her law firm's marble lobby, I was the picture of the devoted husband. Claire met me at the elevator, looking gorgeous and guilty. Thanks for bringing this. You're the best. I know, I said, kissing her forehead. See you at home. Don't work too late. As I walked away, my phone buzzed with a notification from my new surveillance app. Claire's watch was already syncing her messages to my server. Every lie, every secret meeting, every betrayal would now be documented in real time. Tom Reynolds stepped out of the elevator as I reached the lobby. He was tall, silver-haired, and had the kind of confident swagger that screamed, "I'm screwing your wife and getting away with it." "James, good to see you, buddy. How's the tech business?" "Booming," I replied. "Data is everything these days. You'd be amazed what you can learn when you know how to look." Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? "Well, keep up the good work. Claire's lucky to have such a dedicated husband." "She certainly is. Give my best to your wife, Tom. How is Margaret these days?" His smile faltered. Margaret was his wife of 15 years, mother of his 2 teenage daughters, a woman who had no idea her husband was destroying another marriage. She's fine. Thanks for asking." I walked away whistling. Let him sweat a little. This was just the beginning. 3 days later, I had enough evidence to end Claire's career and Tom's marriage. But I wanted more than just evidence. I wanted justice. The Gavel was a dive bar 3 blocks from Claire's law firm, the kind of place where lawyers and paralegals gossiped over overpriced drinks. I'd never been there before, but my research showed it was Claire and Tom's regular spot for their discreet meetings. I arrived at 6 p.m., wearing jeans and a baseball cap, looking nothing like the successful tech entrepreneur Claire's colleagues might recognize. The bar was dimly lit, filled with the usual after-work crowd of legal professionals drowning their ethical compromises in alcohol. I ordered a beer and waited. At 6:30, Claire and Tom walked in together, sitting at a corner booth and immediately leaning into each other like teenagers. It was nauseating. My phone buzzed with intercepted messages from Claire's watch. "This is risky, meeting here again. C. Nobody cares about 2 colleagues having a drink. T. When are you going to tell Margaret? C. Soon, after the Henderson merger closes. I need the partnership bonus first. T." So Tom was planning to leave his wife for mine, but only after securing his financial position. What a romantic. I moved closer, pretending to watch the game on TV while listening to their conversation. "James has been acting strange lately," Claire was saying, more attentive, asking questions about my cases. "Maybe he suspects something," Tom replied, his hand covering hers on the table. "He's a tech nerd, not a detective. Besides, I've been careful." "Not careful enough, sweetheart." They ordered another round, and their conversation grew more intimate. Claire laughed at Tom's jokes, the same laugh she used to reserve for me. Tom's hand moved to her thigh under the table. I'd seen enough. As they prepared to leave, I followed them to the parking garage across the street. They were so wrapped up in each other, they never noticed me. Tom's BMW was parked on the 3rd level. As they made out against his car like horny teenagers, I took photos from behind a concrete pillar. Not for blackmail, I had better plans for these images. After they separated and Claire left in her own car, I approached Tom's BMW. I didn't slash his tires or key his paint job. Instead, I did something much more subtle. I placed a small GPS tracker under his rear bumper, the same kind my company used for corporate security. Then I used washable window markers to write "Ask me about my affair" across his rear windshield in letters large enough to read from 50 feet away. Tom wouldn't notice until he got home to his wife and daughters. The next morning, Allison found me in the office early, monitoring Tom's GPS location and checking social media for any fallout from his decorated car. "Did you really write on his windshield?" she asked, trying not to smile. "I have no idea what you're talking about," I replied innocently. "I was home with my loving wife all evening." My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Tom's car got vandalized last night. Someone wrote something horrible on it. He thinks it might be connected to one of his cases." I texted back, "That's awful. Some people have no respect for other people's property." Allison snorted with laughter. "You're evil." "I'm just getting started." The beauty of revenge in the digital age is that you don't need to get your hands dirty. You just need to understand human psychology and have the right access to information. Claire's law firm, Callahan and Associates, prided itself on discretion and professionalism. Partners were expected to maintain impeccable reputations, especially when they were up for senior partnerships like Tom Reynolds. I spent the weekend building detailed profiles of everyone in Claire's professional circle, social media posts, LinkedIn connections, public records, court filings. It was amazing how much people revealed about themselves online. Rachel Martinez was Claire's closest friend at the firm, a gossipy paralegal who knew everyone's business and loved to share it. She was also drowning in student loan debt and had recently gone through a messy divorce. I created a fake LinkedIn profile for a legal recruiter and reached out to Rachel with a job opportunity at a competing firm. During our phone conversation, I casually mentioned that I'd heard interesting rumors about some of the partners at Callahan and Associates. "Oh, you mean about Tom and that married associate?" Rachel said, taking the bait immediately. "Everyone knows about that. They're not as discreet as they think." "Really? I heard it was just speculation." "Honey, I've seen them together at the gavel more times than I can count. And the way they look at each other in meetings, please. Plus, his wife called the office last week asking why he was working so late when she drove by and saw his car wasn't in the parking garage." "Perfect." Margaret Reynolds was already suspicious. After the call, I sent Rachel a follow-up email with a job application form that was actually a sophisticated phishing tool. Within hours, I had access to her work email and calendar, giving me real-time intelligence on everything happening at Claire's firm. The next phase required more direct action. I hired a private investigator named Mike Torres, a former cop who specialized in matrimonial cases. I didn't need him to gather evidence. I already had plenty. I needed him to accidentally let Margaret Reynolds know about her husband's affair. "Make it look natural," I instructed Mike. "Like you're investigating something else entirely, and she just happens to overhear the right information." "You sure you want to blow up 2 marriages at once?" Mike asked. "Only one marriage is getting blown up," I replied. "The other one was already gone. I'm just making it official." While Mike worked on the Reynolds situation, I focused on Claire's professional reputation. Her law firm had a strict ethics policy about relationships between partners and associates. If the senior partners found out about the affair, both Claire and Tom would face disciplinary action. I didn't need to report them directly. I just needed to create enough smoke that someone else would investigate the fire. Using Rachel's compromised email account, I sent anonymous tips to the firm's ethics hotline, complete with dates, times, and locations of Claire and Tom's meetings. I made sure the information was accurate, but not so detailed that it would point back to me. Then I waited. The explosion came on a Wednesday morning. I was in my office when Allison burst in, her face flushed with excitement. "James, you need to see this. Rachel just posted on her private Instagram story." She showed me her phone. Rachel had screenshot a group text from her paralegal friends. "OMG, Tom and Claire just got called into Callahan's office together. Word is they're both getting suspended pending investigation for ethics violations." My phone rang immediately. Claire calling from the parking garage of her law firm. "James, something terrible has happened. Someone reported Tom and me to the ethics board. They're saying we're having an inappropriate relationship." "That's ridiculous," I said, injecting just the right amount of concern into my voice. "Who would say something like that?" "I don't know, but they have details. Specific dates and locations. Someone's been watching us." "Watching you do what, Claire?" Silence. She'd walked right into that one. "I mean, watching us have normal colleague interactions and misinterpreting them. Of course. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. These things usually blow over." But it wasn't going to blow over. I'd made sure of that. That evening, Claire came home devastated. She'd been placed on administrative leave while the firm conducted their investigation. Tom had been suspended from the partnership track. "This could ruin my career," she said, pacing around our living room. 7 years at that firm, and now they're treating me like a criminal." "I'm sure you'll figure something out," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "You're very good at problem-solving." She stopped pacing and stared at me. "You're being weird again. Distant. Just focused on work. Someone has to pay the bills now that you're on suspension." Her face flushed with anger. "This isn't my fault, James. I'm the victim here." That was rich. "Of course you are, sweetheart. You're always the victim." "What's that supposed to mean?" I closed my laptop and looked at her directly for the first time in weeks. "It means I'm tired, Claire. Tired of working 16-hour days while you work late with colleagues. Tired of pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't." "Are you accusing me of something?" "Should I be?" We stared at each other across the room, 5 years of marriage reduced to this moment of mutual deception. She was trying to read my face, looking for signs of what I knew. I kept my expression neutral, letting her paranoia do the work. "I think we should talk to someone," she said finally. "A counselor. This suspension has me stressed, and I'm taking it out on our marriage." "That's a great idea. We should definitely talk to someone professional about our relationship." What I didn't tell her was that I'd already scheduled a meeting with my divorce attorney for the next morning. Patricia Patel was the best divorce attorney in Boston, a shark in a tailored suit who specialized in high-net-worth cases. Her office overlooked the harbor, and her reputation for destroying unfaithful spouses was legendary. "Mr. Bennett," she said, reviewing the evidence I'd compiled, This is remarkably thorough. You have documentation of the affair, financial records, even GPS tracking data. Your wife's attorney is going to have a very bad day. That's the idea. What are my options? With this evidence and your prenuptial agreement, you can divorce her for adultery and keep virtually all marital assets. The prenup she insisted on is ironclad. Infidelity voids any claim she might have to your business or property. What about her suspension from the law firm? That actually works in your favor. She'll have reduced earning capacity, making it harder for her to argue for spousal support. Plus, if the ethics investigation finds wrongdoing, she could face professional sanctions that would further damage her career prospects. I smiled. Claire's own ambition was becoming her downfall. There's one more thing, I said, handing Patricia a flash drive. Audio recordings from their meetings at the gavel. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state for recording, and I was present in the bar when these conversations took place. Patricia plugged in the drive and listened to a few minutes of Claire and Tom planning their affair, discussing how to hide it from their spouses, and making disparaging comments about both me and Margaret Reynolds. This is devastating evidence, she said. They're not just admitting to adultery, they're discussing fraud, deception, and conspiracy to hide assets. Your wife mentioned moving money to accounts you couldn't access. She did what? Patricia replayed the relevant section. Claire's voice was clear. I've been moving money to the Cayman account Tom set up. If James ever gets suspicious, I'll have enough saved to disappear. She hadn't just been cheating, she'd been planning to rob me blind. We need to move fast, Patricia said. File for divorce immediately and freeze all accounts. If she's been hiding money offshore, we can pursue criminal charges for fraud and tax evasion. Do it. All of it. I left Patricia's office feeling lighter than I had in months. Claire wanted to play hardball. She was about to learn that I'd been playing in a different league entirely. I decided to confront Claire and Tom together. Not in a bar or parking garage, but somewhere public enough that they couldn't deny what was happening, yet private enough for me to say what needed to be said. The Boston Harbor Hotel had a private conference room that I rented under my company's name. I told Claire it was for a marriage counseling session with a relationship specialist, and asked her to bring Tom as a neutral third party, since he was her closest colleague and friend. She agreed immediately, probably thinking this was her chance to control the narrative and manipulate the situation in her favor. They arrived together, of course, at exactly 2 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Claire wore her power suit, the one she claimed made her feel confident. Tom looked nervous, constantly checking his phone. I was waiting in the conference room with Mike Torres, my private investigator, and a court reporter I'd hired to document everything that was about to happen. James? Claire said, confusion evident in her voice as she saw the setup. What is this? This is a settlement conference, I replied calmly. Please, both of you, sit down. Tom started to back toward the door. I think there's been some misunderstanding. I should go. Sit down, Tom. We have a lot to discuss. I activated the room's presentation system and displayed the first slide. A photo of Claire and Tom kissing in the parking garage, timestamp clearly visible. Claire's face went white. Tom sat down heavily, like his legs had given out. Before we begin, I said, I want you both to know that this conversation is being recorded and transcribed for legal purposes. You're free to leave at any time, but if you do, the next conversation will be with your respective spouses' divorce attorneys. James, I can explain, Claire started. I'm sure you can. You're very good at explaining things, like how you explained those late nights at the office, or how you explained the charges on your credit card for hotel rooms you never told me about. I clicked to the next slide, a detailed timeline of their affair, complete with hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and GPS tracking data. 8 months, I continued. 8 months of lying to my face while you planned your exit strategy. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about the Cayman Islands account, Claire? Tom's head snapped up. What account? Oh, she didn't tell you about that part? Claire's been skimming money from our joint accounts and hiding it offshore. I guess she was planning to disappear with more than just my wife. The room fell silent, except for the court reporter's fingers flying across her keyboard. Claire finally found her voice. James, please. We can work this out. It was a mistake. A moment of weakness that got out of hand. A moment? Claire, you've been planning this for almost a year. The affair, the hidden money, probably the divorce too. You just wanted to make sure you had everything lined up before you pulled the trigger. Tom stood up abruptly. I'm not listening to this. You can't prove anything. Sit down, Tom, or I call Margaret right now and play her the audio recordings of you two planning your future together. He sat. I spent the next hour methodically destroying their denials with evidence. Photos, audio recordings, financial records, GPS tracking data, even security camera footage from the hotels where they'd met. By the end, Claire was crying, and Tom looked like he might vomit. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, pulling out 2 sets of legal documents. "Claire, you're going to sign these divorce papers and accept the terms of our prenuptial agreement. You get nothing except what you came into this marriage with. Tom, you're going to resign from your law firm and recommend Claire for immediate termination." "You can't make us do anything," Tom said weakly. "You're right. I can't make you. But I can make your lives very uncomfortable if you don't. Margaret already knows about the affair, Tom. She's meeting with her own attorney this afternoon. Your daughters know too. Apparently, teenage girls are very good at reading their father's text messages when he leaves his phone unattended." Tom's face crumpled. "You bastard! You destroyed my family." "No, Tom, you destroyed your family. I just documented it." Claire looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I loved you once, James. We were happy." "Maybe we were. But that was before you decided that happiness wasn't enough. You wanted more, and you were willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get it. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you deserved." I stood up and walked toward the door. "You have 24 hours to sign those documents. After that, everything becomes public record." As I reached the door, I turned back one more time. "Oh, and Claire? The Cayman Islands account? I already reported it to the IRS. They're very interested in your undeclared offshore assets. You might want to hire a good tax attorney. I recommend someone other than Tom." The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Claire signed every document without contest, probably on the advice of whatever attorney she could afford after losing her job and facing federal tax charges. She got nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, no retirement benefits. The prenuptial agreement she'd insisted on 5 years earlier became her financial undoing. Tom Reynolds lost everything, too. His wife divorced him and got custody of their daughters, plus half of everything he'd accumulated during their 15-year marriage. His law firm fired him for ethics violations, and the Massachusetts Bar Association suspended his license pending their own investigation. Last I heard, he was working as a paralegal at a small personal injury firm, making a fraction of his former salary and living in a studio apartment in Somerville. Claire moved back in with her parents in Ohio. The IRS seized her hidden Cayman account, which turned out to contain over $200,000 in stolen marital assets. She pled guilty to tax evasion and received 2 years probation plus substantial fines. Her law license was permanently revoked. As for me, I kept everything: the house, the business, the investments, even Claire's car since it was titled in my name. More importantly, I kept my dignity and my self-respect. Allison and I started dating 6 months after the divorce was final. She'd been patient, supportive, and loyal when I needed it most. Unlike my ex-wife, she actually understood the value of honesty and commitment. "We're getting married next spring. No prenup this time. When you find someone you can trust completely, legal protections become unnecessary." I ran into Rachel Martinez at a coffee shop downtown last month. She was working as a receptionist at a small accounting firm, having been fired from Callahan and Associates for her role in leaking confidential information about the Tom and Claire investigation. "James," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "How are you doing? I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I replied. "It was the best thing that ever happened to me." "Claire always said you were too trusting, that you'd never figure out what was really going on." I smiled and sipped my coffee. "Claire said a lot of things. Most of them were lies." Rachel shifted uncomfortably. "She tried to blame you, you know. Said you were controlling and paranoid, that you drove her to have the affair." "Of course she did. People like Claire never take responsibility for their choices. It's always someone else's fault." For what it's worth, I think she got what she deserved, what they both got. "They got exactly what they earned," I corrected. "Nothing more, nothing less." As I walked away, I thought about the last 5 years. The betrayal, the investigation, the divorce, the aftermath. It had been exhausting and painful, but also educational. I learned that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. I learned that some people will destroy everything good in their lives for the temporary thrill of something forbidden. Most importantly, I learned that revenge doesn't have to be violent or illegal to be complete. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the natural consequences of their own choices. Claire wanted excitement and passion and financial security without commitment or honesty. She got exactly what those choices earned her: nothing. Tom wanted the thrill of an affair and the security of his marriage and career. He lost everything because he tried to have both. I wanted justice and a fresh start. I got both. The settlement was complete, not just the legal settlement that ended my marriage, but the larger settlement that restored balance to my life. Claire had bet that I was too trusting, too focused on work, too naive to discover her betrayal. She was wrong on all counts. I was a tech entrepreneur who specialized in data analysis and digital forensics. Uncovering hidden information and exposing deception wasn't just my job, it was my expertise. She played a game she couldn't win against an opponent she didn't understand. The house is quiet now, but it's a peaceful quiet rather than the tense silence that marked the final months of my marriage. Allison and I cook dinner together, watch movies, talk about our future without wondering what the other person is hiding. Trust is a beautiful thing when it's real. I kept one memento from my marriage, Claire's Apple Watch, the device that first revealed her betrayal. It sits in my desk drawer as a reminder that technology is neutral. It's how people use it that determines whether it builds relationships or destroys them. Claire used technology to coordinate her deception. I used it to uncover the truth. In the end, the truth always wins. It just sometimes takes a while to emerge from all the lies people build around it. The settlement taught me that revenge doesn't require violence or illegality. It just requires patience, intelligence, and the willingness to let people face the consequences of their own choices. Claire chose to lie, cheat, and steal. She faced the consequences. Tom chose to betray his family and professional ethics. He faced the consequences. I chose to fight back with evidence, legal action, and strategic thinking. I got justice. Sometimes the system works exactly the way it's supposed to.